power within us. We sometimes don't believe that. We think that the power is, power's outside of us. The title of the talk today is The Will to Live. And when I looked at it, I go, okay. So then I read some of the parts of the outline, and I decided to go along with some of it and add your own. That's what the outline is for. But the will to live is not the idea of just merely surviving. We sometimes are on this planet, and we just plug along day by day or minute by minute, just trying to get through, trying to get by. And that's not really living. That's existing. And Earnest Holmes says in Living the Science of Mind, he says that the will to live and to be happy is necessary to our physical well-being. And I'd like to add, it's not just physical well-being. It's your mental, emotional, your spiritual, the whole enchilada, your whole being. And it is important to live and to be happy. And that happiness, where does that come from? The idea that others, I need another person in my life to make me happy. I need this job to make me happy. I need. And then I'll be happy. But like I was hearing on the radio the other day, and I've heard it before, that that some of the most miserable people are some of the wealthiest people, because they need more and more, and they're never complete. Because they said one person was asked, well, how much would you have to have in order for you to actually be comfortable and relax and be happy or whatever? And they said, well, about 3 times of what I have now. So say you have $100 million, okay, you only need, that much more to make it, yeah. And why? I've seen some people that are so happy, that live with not a lot. And like Reverend Vaughn was speaking about that woman on the street this morning, that was I found that very very, very touching and very moving, because, she was there, and she could smile. And it wasn't this phony smile or whatever. To me, it sounded like that very genuine, deep smile that comes from within. That light from within you comes, and it shines out. And the eyes don't lie. The eyes are so powerful. I remember when, years ago, my first partner could always tell when I'd been drinking, when I wasn't supposed to be, because of my eyes. And then later on, after I'd been sober for several years, he said, when you're tired or don't feel good, your eyes look exactly like they did when you were drinking. So it's interesting, and eye contact is so powerful too. I mean, there's so many. I think there's countries in the world where eye contact is not really a big thing, and I find that it's taken me a long time to be able to do that with a lot of people. And the first time I really challenged myself to it was when I've shared this before, when I did this walking meditation around Green Lake. And I didn't want to speak to anybody with words. I just wanted to make eye contact. And it was one of the most thrilling experiences, because it's amazing what happens when you actually look at people, and you catch their eye. And some will smile, they just light up. Others will quick turn away. And others will just, there's no response whatsoever, But it's just people. And in order to live, I know you've seen people, or you've probably experienced things where you've been in a crisis, or you've been diagnosed with some physical ailment, and you're just praying, let me just get through this, But getting through it, to me, is not enough. Because just getting through it, that's settling. But to get through it, to move through it and thrive, to rise up like the phoenix from the flame, from the ashes, to rise up and move on with your life in joyous expectation. I like that. Because the happiness is something we think we need to be happy, but that joy, that joyous expectation is within us. That joy that is the joy that God is so too are we. And relying on outside things to make us happy can be very disappointing in life. Especially if you don't communicate with people on what you want in life. So many times I've been guilty of it, that I'm assuming that this other person knows what I'm thinking. I know nobody else probably has ever experienced that. You think that other person knows exactly what you want. And I've been on the other end of that too. And I said, well, how do I know if you don't say anything? And so then I go, oh, I'll look in the mirror. It's very, life is a reflective. We're looking. So we need to voice ourselves, to let people know what we want or what we need. Sometimes we need other people to, like the fire department, to help us out. And some people, my grandmother for one, she had one of those little buttons, to push. Well, she slid off the bed, in between her bed and I'm not sure it was a cabinet or something, and she sat there. She wouldn't call anybody. She waited until my uncle came over to check on her. She didn't want to bother anybody. I wanted to slap that woman. That's what this little button thing was for. To call for help, to ask for help, and she didn't want. And several times I've known different things she did in life that she didn't want to bother somebody. And that's what we have each other for, to ask for help, to ask for assistance in different times. And there's a question that we come into this life for a purpose. It may take a long time to know what it is. Maybe we go out never really understanding what it was, and all the time we were fulfilling it. And one thing I remember asking or stating that I wanted out of life was fulfillment. And then I have to ask myself, just what does fulfillment mean to me? And there's this, Aeschylus said that happiness is a choice that requires effort at times. And that's just like our 5-step treatment. There's a saying, treat and move your feet. I mean, you can treat, but there's certain things that you have to do to help assist this along. Like if you want a sandwich, you can treat for a sandwich, but if you're in the house all alone sitting on the couch, that sandwich is not going to make itself and come over to you. Either you're going to have to get up and go make it, or you're going to have somebody make it for you. So sometimes we have to do these steps to reach this fulfillment. We have to find out some way exactly what we believe our purpose is, and what we look at fulfillment to be in our lives. Because a lot of times we try to be something we're not. And that's because we want to make other people happy. We try, like our parents want us to be, this or that, and yet our heart's desire is to, say our parents want us to be a doctor. And you go, ugh, I faint every time I see blood, so why would I want to be a doctor? Or what makes my heart sing is to be a dancer, an artist, a musician. And yet we move on to be what others, what we believe they want us to be, or who. And that's not being authentic with ourselves. That's not being authentic and in integrity with anybody. Because you're actually, in some ways, you're maybe suffering because your heart isn't joy-filled. The idea is of living by being joyful and doing what brings you joy. Like I know somebody in this room who loves designing clothes and making clothes. And she's done that for a lot of years for other people. And it's time. It is time. And that's like each one of us. Charlie's art. It's amazing too. Like last night we went to the Garden Delights, and it was delightful. But we're standing there and asking. It was Ron, Tan, and myself, and we're standing there and I'm like, what is that? Tan thought it was. I said, well, you know, it can be anything you want it to be. You know, because pretty much with those lights, because you look at it from one angle and it looks like one thing, and then you turn around and you get in front of it and say, oh, whoa, that wasn't that at all. It was, and that's like in life too. You know, and like Charlie's art, we were looking at different things, and I said, well, this reminds me of Tinker Toys and this and that. And then he was saying what one woman, I won't repeat that, said about one of his drawings one time. And it's in the eye of the beholder. And that's kind of life in that way. So different things, like you can see different beauty, what beauty strikes to each one of us. Like I've really gotten into trees. I noticed them, you know, all my life, but I don't know, there's something about trees now that just, to me, they're so beautiful and perfect. And the idea of the will to live, I wanted to go by this, see that little blade of grass? I mean, a lot of times you'll see these things growing up in the cracks between the pads and the sidewalk. Well, this one, you can see, isn't doing that. It broke through. It wanted to thrive, and it is. I mean, I would probably cut the little butter down, but that blade of grass, you know, I mean, it's amazing. And same with this. If you go into the forest, a lot of times, well, I love it when I see, you know, new growth on an old tree that's either been burned or cut down or whatever, and it's a second life.
It's called a nursing tree.
Oh, is that what it? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're called nursing trees because
They are nursing the new growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like, I know when I first time went over to La Push, because you have to go to one beach, it's like a mile through the woods and then down.
Oh.
And it's just beautiful, because you got the trees that are falling down, and there's so much growth coming off of it. You know, you can have a log as long as this room, and you're going to have like a dozen or more sprouts coming up. That's the will to live, the will to thrive. And that's why I had to use these. I had put it together last night and saved it somewhere, and it was like, but I couldn't bring it in, so I had to remake it. Fortunately, I didn't have time to do that without getting too upset. Sunday mornings are challenging for me a lot of times, because if things aren't just exactly right the way, you know, I can be triggered. And I know nobody else gets triggered by anything. We all have our trigger zone. We all have our wilderness. And I like that idea of the wilderness. It's kind of like the wild in us. And the idea of what Reverend Ron was reading in there about the willpower. I remember my mother, when my stepfather he would go back out drinking again, and she thought it was a lack of willpower. And I kept hearing that over and over and over again. And finally, when I was in treatment, after I was there for like a week, then I could call her, and I told her this and that. And she said, well, maybe if she would have realized more the dynamics of it, maybe it would have made a difference. Maybe, maybe not. And then there's that saying about be willing to be willing. I love that, because it's ideas. Right now I'm not willing to do this, or I'm not willing to think that way. But then the question, can you be willing to be willing? You know, because that's even opening up a little crack. You know, willing to be willing will open up a little crack, so a little light can come in, And maybe you will be, and maybe you won't. But if you're willing to be willing, that is opening up. That's opening up at the top. And there's a few things we can look at, a few choices that can lead to happiness and fulfillment. They're easy. They're simple. And one is, don't sweat the small stuff. And actually, don't sweat the big stuff either. But I get so serious sometimes, and that's one of my biggest, I don't want to call it faults, I guess. But I take things so seriously. And you don't have to take life serious. Because you're going to go through it, no matter what, if you take it serious, or if you end up being a little more lighthearted. And the heavy stuff, well, that's going to get you down too. And that's all going to happen whether you take it too seriously or not. And I do something every day that can push you a little bit out of your comfort zone. I know that's a tough one for a lot of people. But it's good because that's growth. If you stay in that little rut that you're always, and you're just going to get deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're not going to be able to, like I always say that so many times I'm like this with the blinders, and you need to take that off so that you can see what's beside you. And actually, you turn around and look what's behind you. Do a little something every day just to push yourself a little bit. And then live fully each moment. And sometimes people feel that can be challenging, to live fully in every moment. And it doesn't have to be. It's all what we make it. Just like that, the happiness thing. It's us. It's inside. And like my tagline is that I just love it, is life is an inside job. And it is. It's all within. And so that if we try to live each moment, fully as we can, with that ease and that grace and that joy and that peacefulness. And then give gratitude any chance you can. And do it bigly. Do it largely. Sorry I used that word. But I did it. You do it largely, just, and because it can be, just look around you, and there's so much to be grateful for. You could be in the pouring down. Last night we were coming back, and I pointed out something on a house, and Tan said, oh, her brother has these things. They're not the downspouts, but there's like these little buckets or whatever that are hung on a chain. And she was saying that when she was visiting her brother, he has it. And she just went out when it was raining and was just watching because it was so beautiful watching it. Here you're standing in the rain. A lot of people go, oh, like rain, oh, I hate the rain, and this. But there's beauty pretty much in anything around you. And then I like this one because this one is very true for me. It's listen to your gut. Well, in other words, your intuition. Because I know when something's going on, I can tell because it's right here. It'll tell me in a heartbeat. If I'm nervous about something, it's going to be right in the gut. So listen to your intuition. Sometimes your intuition is, well, not sometimes, probably 99.99 is right. I always believed that intuition was, that belonged to the women, because it always said women's intuition. However, everybody has it. And finally, when you realize that, and oh, that's what that is going on. Okay, I can listen to it. And then let go of the fear of not being accepted, and let your true self come out. And to me, that is a huge thing, because we need to be authentic with ourselves. Because if we're not authentic with ourselves, if we're not true to ourselves, there's an old saying that to thine own self be true. You have to be. Because same as loving yourself, if you can't do that, then how in the world is anybody else, how are you going to expect them to love you if you can't love yourself? Or if you can't trust yourself, if you're not honest with yourself? And that's the one thing that honesty is such, honesty and integrity and authenticity and all those things are, to me, so important, because I mean, when I told lies as a kid, I ate a lot of soap. And I swore or told a lie. Ivory or dial. You will not find those in the house today. I could smell ivory on a person usually when they use it. Until I got sick one time from eating it. And so I don't like to lie, because you know what? There's that thing that you tell this lie to one person, you tell this, then you have to remember what you said, what you know, oh, what did I tell this person now, or what did I tell this person? So, you know, it's to me, it's just way too troublesome to do that. It's a lot easier to be honest and true, and that includes with yourself, because in order to thrive, in order to not just merely survive, to live, by being honest with yourself, then you're open, you're wide open and free. I saw this saying where this monk in Bangkok asked this person, "Why are you here in Thailand?" And they said, "To find happiness." To find happiness? And the monk says, "You won't find that here. I can't give it to you. You can travel the world to find it, but there's only one place you can be found, and that's within." And that happiness and that joy, I mean, it's the idea that others can't give it to you. I remember as a kid, and I still believe this holds true for me, when people say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said happy. Because the household I lived in, to me, there was not a lot of happiness. And so I just wanted to be happy in life. And I can say I am pretty happy. And when I'm not, who's at fault? I'm not at fault necessarily, but where do I have to look? Because so many times, you know, if I'm not happy, I'm expecting, my expectations sometimes are way out of the ballpark. Because I expect, I think, more of myself than I do others. And I have to remember that I am a human being here. I'm a spiritual entity, but I'm also a human being on this blue marble as we travel around the sun for many years. And so I like this other saying by Maya Angelou. I like almost all her sayings, but this is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that to me includes yourself. How did you treat yourself in this life? Did you beat yourself up constantly? I know a lot of times I think some of us were born with those. What is the Finnish do the massage thing with
No.
the
Flogging.
Yeah, the flogging. And I'm sorry, I have my own, so I don't need any more. And so, discovering of who we came here to be is one of the big keys to living and thriving, to living fully and thriving. Just take time and say, who did I come here to be? I mean, it may take a lifetime to figure it out. And so I believe if we just sat down, like an exercise, and just maybe meditated for 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, and just started writing. Who am I? And who have I come to this place, this earth to be? Because I think you'd be surprised what will come up. Without being judgmental. That's the whole thing, I think, with journaling a lot of time is to, because sometimes we sit, oh, I can't write that, you know. And judge ourselves, and just let it flow. I remember that exercise in practitioner training where we're to do a meditation and then start journaling without any judgment or And I did that at lunch one time, and I told people never ever do that when you're around other people or at lunch, because what comes out sometimes can be very, very awakening. It was to me anyway. And so just this week, I just invite you to live, not to exist. Do something for yourself. Treat yourself to something. You know, it's always nice to treat yourself. You can't expect everybody else to treat you. You're worth it. We all are worth it. We're all worth maybe an extra cup of coffee or a bag of popcorn, manicure, massage. You know, there's something that we can treat ourselves to, because we are worth it, and it allows us to thrive, not only live, not only exist. So living, like these trees and that little blade of grass, you know. And I say, that's what it is.
So it is.